Well, there we go, guys. Wolverhampton Wanderers have lost out 4-1 this evening to Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. A very strange evening of football for Wolves, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of comments about today's game. Be sure to hit the like button down below, guys, and subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. But yeah, it was an interesting lineup today. Obviously, the lineup was out at 7 p.m. and Wolves have posted it as a 5-2-3, but it was more like a 5 sort of 4-1 almost. We saw obviously a back five. A goalkeeper, obviously Patricio. We saw Johnny start again at left wing back. Keanu Hoover starting at right wing back. Then Donker, Sace, and Coady at the back again. We saw Neves, Matinho, Semedo as like a right midfielder, and Neto on the left, and sort of Adama starting up front. And from that first whistle, really, I think we all knew that it was going to be an extremely long evening, and the fact that City were only 1-up at half time was, I think, flattered Wolves a hell of a lot. Yeah, just disappointing, really. Obviously, they got that goal in the end coming from, that Mahrez ball on the right-hand side, and unfortunately, Den Donker, put it into the back of the net. It's a shame he couldn't do that down the other end of the pitch, really. And we offered very, very little throughout the first half, really. Offered them a lot of respect, a lot of time on the ball. But the most disappointing thing for me was that we weren't making it any easier for ourselves. If Nuno had said, right, let's park up, which is fair enough, but when we get the ball, let's try and keep it and do well with it. It was almost as if, at school, this was like a year 7 versus year 11's game, because they just looked phenomenal compared to us. The press they possess, I think you can see why they're probably, in my opinion, the best team in the world right now. But Wolves just didn't make it any easier for ourselves. I felt in the first half in particular, Neves and Matinho, Neves especially, and I saw this in spells in the last game against Newcastle. I know he scored, but just some of the passing was really rusty and off. And we saw that a lot, and we didn't really advance with the ball forward. It took us such a long time to get into that final third. When we did knock it about quickly, that's when we opened City up a little bit, and I felt that's what we needed to do a little bit more. But to go 1-0 down, and to obviously keep it at 1-0, obviously they had the goal right at the end of the first half disallowed, which, without VAR, I think that was very, very tight indeed. Another VAR official could have looked at that and would have given it, to be honest. It was that close. But yeah, to go in at halftime 1-0, I think Nuno would have been satisfied with that. I know it sounds daft, but they could have had a hell of a lot more goals. You look at the, second half, I think I just still had that little bit of hope. Despite that first half performance, we know what this Wolves side can do. We know our luck against Pep Guardiola in the past. I just felt that we could still provide something, and we got exactly what we would have wanted, really. It was a set piece, obviously, and that's how we'd set up, really. We'd set up to counter-attack, we'd set up to have set pieces, and I tell you what, the delivery from Matinho was perfect, but it was the fact that it was Conor Coady on the end of the cross with that diving header past Edison to make it 1-1, and I couldn't believe it. I felt that, again, still flattered Wolves. I felt City, obviously, was so much better, but if we could have sat on that, it would have been great. But for maybe the next 5 or 10 minutes, that's when City were really open. We should have taken advantage of that. We had 1 or 2 key opportunities which we had to take. At one point when there was a cracking challenge, I believe it was probably Matinho, it may have been Neves, and then we've laid the ball off onto the the right hand side to Neto, who his shot was blocked. But when we've got that number advantage, and obviously I think Adama's shot went over the bar, when we've got that advantage, we've got to be taking advantage of it, really. And unfortunately for Wolves, I don't know what happened those last moments of the game, really. We just, fell apart. Obviously, Gabriel Jesus scoring the first goal. I think that is all from Adama Traore just being ridiculous with the ball, really. I know a lot of people will moan that Semedo was keeping them onside there on the right hand side, but for me, Adama he's got to cut that out the game, because 10 minutes before I was begging for us to give the ball to Adama Traore, because he was the only way I could see us forcing our way up the pitch. But there, he's got his back to our goal. Just do a little knock-off and let's clear it and regroup. He's worked himself into trouble. They've obviously played the ball. Again, I saw a couple of people moaning about Semedo's positioning, but the ball's come across and they've scored from that, really. And City more or less had full control from there. I've lost all sorts of, I can't even remember the third goal now, if I'm completely honest. My head is completely gone. The fourth goal, obviously, as well, right at the death. It's Patricio with the stop, and I think it was Gabriel Jesus again, who just about kept onside by the back of Coady's foot and put the game to bed. So, on the face of it, as Wolves improved throughout the second half, I don't know if the result flatters City or flatters Wolves, or in hindsight, it's probably the right sort of result. City dominated for most part of the game, and Wolves had little spells, but pretty disappointing overall. Some positives to take out of it, but a lot of negatives. That isn't the solid defensive unit that we used to see with Wolves. And is that down to tactics? Is that down to personnel? I'll let you guys decide that, to be honest. But in terms of individuals, Rui Patricio, especially since Christmas, I'd say, has been phenomenal this year for Wolves. Made a couple of unbelievable and world-class saves today to keep Wolves in the game. Johnny, of course, we saw him for the majority of the game again. I think he did okay. He's got that experience there. I was surprised to see him. I think this is quite a tough period for him because, he's come back from such a long-term injury and played almost 90 minutes on Saturday and had to come in again against such a tough opposition. I think that would have been really testing for him. For me, the structure of the team, despite us playing defensive, was still too open. City were they found the gaps way too easily through us. And again, that could be due to the personnel. Then Donker, for me, I don't know what it is. I remember when there were rumours in the summer of, I think it was Lazio interested in him, and everyone was just sort of writing that off. Genuinely now, I just can't see where he's been disappointing, I think, for the last few months for me. Even in defence today, and it wasn't just today, but in previous weeks, he just turns himself into trouble. If he knows he hasn't got an option in front of him, he almost sort of turns around and then has his back to goal and plays himself into trouble, which I don't really understand. But other than that, there's no one really I can pinpoint as a good performer, Otasawi, of course, you could say that was the one goal that I've missed out when Owen Otasawi came off the bench. People begging for him to start, and obviously that's not the best of impressions for him. Again, it's just one of those where if you've got no options, an old school, if in doubt, kick it out. Let's get rid of it, regroup and start again, because against City, I think we tried way too hard to play out from the back today, and you can't do that against a team as physical, as quick, and as pressing as Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, especially with the form they're on, and I expect them to go on to win the Premier League at the end of the season and possibly even push for the Champions League. But yeah, disappointing. If there's any points that you guys feel I've missed out, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll try my best to respond and give my thoughts on those, because there are times that I miss things out, or there were times where a couple of you guys disagreed with what I said after the Newcastle game, which is fair enough. It was good to see Fabio come on. I felt he pulled his weight out there slightly. Some good link-up play once again, but we're just not getting that service into our attacking plays at the moment, are we? I feel if any of those chances earlier on in the game where Neto and Adama had chances fell to someone like Fabio, it could have been a different result. But yeah, disappointing, especially to lose 4-1 as I felt we were in the game, especially at 1-1 for a good period of time, and getting that goal fairly deep into the second half. But against City, sometimes you just can't help it. Let me know your thoughts. As I said earlier, guys, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We should have, obviously, the fans react and the final word tomorrow as well. And enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll be back before the weekend for some more Premier League action. Until next time, guys, I'll see you all very, very soon.